This video is to give you my thoughts on the recent range announcement from Hornby. So I want to kind of talk through some of the models that stood out for me, I guess, that I would be interested in them or I find them interesting. That's kind of the two categories. So let me go through them, and they're in no particular order, I guess, but probably some of the most memorable ones I'll have up front. So the first up is the Triang Remembered, the RS9 Intercity Express Trainset. Now this one actually is close to my heart because I did do a video on this particular train set. I had the original many moons ago with this Class 37 and 3 Pullman coaches. And so this one really did jump out at me, particularly the box cover. And if they're using the original box art, I think that's really good. Price-wise, it's $179.99. Probably not too bad. It's going to be a railroad level of coaches and the Class 37, obviously. But at least it's a complete train set, and it was a train set that I loved for many, many years. So that's one that jumped out, say bringing back those memories. And I did do a video on this a while back, a couple of years ago. Again, kind of remembering this particular train from my own childhood, many, many moons ago. Another one along similar lines is the RM 1289M. Again, it's a kind of a retro. A British Rail high-speed retro train set, which is a very basic HST in the original livery, and again very much the box art looks like the older box art that and many of us from years gone by would remember. And so again, it is a kind of a retro type thing and a bit of nostalgia there. Again, coming in at $169.99, it's probably not too bad value for this type of train set. Which is kind of the same price as the GWR HST set, so which is a decent set. I think it's pretty decent. It's got some basic lighting, etc. as well. I expect this will have at least this equivalent type capability. So again, a nice one to call out. Now, so an interesting one, which to be honest, I didn't see coming, was the Class 800 Azuma railroad version. And the basic train pack coming in at $149.99, and then a kind of a train set which includes one car and the front and rear cars, power cars, coming in at $179.99. Reasonable price for this. Again, obviously these can be upgraded with your DCC sound or your Bluetooth sound, your HM7000 sound, for example. Kind of interesting. It'll be interesting to see what level of quality these have. They do indicate they're going to have directional lights, which is good. I doubt whether they'll have the coach lighting. No, not that the coach lighting on the full price set was to my favour, as you will know if you've been following this channel. But an interesting set, making this available, the Class 800, for the railroad-based customers at I think, a reasonable price point. I think that's a decent price point. Again at $149.99, so something to look out for. And they've also got it in the GWR livery, the train pack, the dummy and power car, again at the $149.99 level. So that's actually interesting, and this is a train pack that, as I say, just jumped out at me. I wasn't expecting to see this. Moving on, another kind of contemporary model, which is the Class 395 Javelin. This Railways 200 version, which they don't show us the livery, they just show us the covered versions. So kind of question mark as to what that livery will look like. Some people may already know. I'm not up to speed on what the Railways 200 liveries do look like, so that'll be new for me. I guess my point on this one, I have done and covered the 395 before, and I still have it, and it did have traction tires, and I did remove them. Now, my question mark is that level of model. Is that a kind of a traction tire model as well? And I guess this is a question to apply to the Class 800s as well. Are they going to have traction tires as railroad models? So that's an open question. Now, the price of it is $299.99 for a 4-car train pack, which is kind of in a middle price range. So I'm not sure, is that the same level of quality as the train pack I already have with my Class 395, which, to be honest, is just a kind of a Railroad Plus level of quality. It's not the full thing. The motor is not the type of motor you'd expect, and it doesn't have all-wheel drive, etc. So I'm kind of thinking $299.99 looks like it's going to be in that price range, which means it's closer to a railroad model than a full model. So let's watch that one. Class 395 is a class I'm interested in. So keep an eye on this one. The next one is an Avanti Class 805. So this is basically your Class 800 repurposed in the Avanti West Coast livery and designated the Class 805. There's probably some other changes associated with that. Nice livery to have the Class 800 in, or the Class 800 series, if I call it that. I guess the issue would be the price at $549.99 and a question mark over the lighting, because the lighting was so poor on the Azuma version that I went through on, and I really wasn't pleased with it. It had light bleed and everything like that, which is not acceptable for a model in this sort of price range, right? To be honest. So it will be interesting to see what sort of quality level this will be, and will the lighting be up to scratch. And even with that, I think $549.99 is pretty steep. So this is an expensive set for what it is, and it would need to deliver a good level of quality for that. And even then, I think it's kind of expensive. But it is what it is, and some people may be attracted by the livery and would be going for it. So interesting to see what that one turns out like. A few other interesting locomotives. Class 73s are always kind of interesting. Some new liveries here, the British Rail and the Network Southeast liveries. So good to see them in that. I guess the interesting one here is that this one in the GBRF Network Southeast livery has got the sound fitted. The HM7000 decoder is fitted. TXS decoder is fitted for $144.99. And then the other one, there's the BR livery, is $89.99. So that's showing like a £55 difference between the sound version and the non-sound version. So that's kind of not a huge saving on the sound version. Usually the sound versions are a bit better value than that. So that's maybe a little bit of a disappointment. I would have been hoping for the TXS version to maybe be a little bit cheaper, at least £10 cheaper. Yeah, kind of maybe disappointed on that one from a price perspective. Obviously, these are the recommended retail prices, so you'll see them at least 10% discounted and maybe even more by some vendors. So I kind of would have been looking at that one for more interesting if it was a little bit cheaper. A much more expensive locomotive, the Cock of the North, which is a model I always interested in, the A2/2. This one comes with a steam generator, hence my interest on this one. Recommended retail price showing at $364.99, so it's still going to be north of $300, but that would have the steam and sound function built in. So that's a nice level of capability to have. So coming in probably at a discounted price, which is going to be pretty close to around $300. That's probably not too bad. That may even get discounted a little bit more than that. So that's a nice addition, I think, and fans of the Cock of the North will probably be looking for that one, I think, in the new year. Class 91, I was kind of surprised to see the new Class 91s appearing in the Swallow GNER and LNER liveries. And again, the price point for the 91, I just think it is high. It has always been high. It's $244.99 again for a DCC ready model. So it's kind of building in, a minimum of about 20% discounting into that price is what I would say. I wouldn't be tempted, to be honest, not at those prices. I do have the older LNER livery, and I'll probably stick with that. I certainly wouldn't go near that sort of price, or even with its typical discounts. Interesting to see the Pullman Class 43 Midland Pullman train pack in a slightly different variant of a different locomotive number, being part of the range this year at the standard price now for the HSDs, which is $394.99. Again, a price that I think is very high. Interesting to see this. There must have been quite a lot of demand. They've obviously got all the coaches available as well. So I will be covering its predecessor in an upcoming review. And I do like these coaches, actually. I do like the coaches. I do like the look of the overall train. So I can see why it would be popular and people would be interested in it. Interesting that they've come out with another version of this for 2025. Another one where there's been some additional liveries added, the Class 423 EMU. They're showing this one at the price of $399.99. Now, I'm not sure what the quality level is on these. I've seen some comments against this, that they're maybe not 100%. It'd be interesting to compare them to their Bachmann equivalents. It's a reasonable price, like $399.99. They would want to be to a good level of quality. You'd want to have good coach lighting for that sort of price. So, that will be interesting to see if they're up to scratch, as it were. Another one, the Avanti 4-car train pack. So this is, basically a Pendolino and a Class 390 Pendolino in a kind of environmentally friendly COP26 livery. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the special liveries on these because they do age. They really tie a model into a very specific time. It's one thing tying it into an era, but it's another thing when you tie it into a very specific part of an era. Now, some people go for them because there's some sort of significance associated with the theme that's taken for the livery. COP26 is not exactly a theme that I think a lot of people will be, would resonate with them from an emotional perspective. So kind of surprised to see this, to be honest, and it wouldn't be something I would go after. I'd much prefer the generic Avanti livery than something specific like this, because I just say they just do age. They show their age. Anytime you've got themed liveries like this, I'm not a huge fan of them, to be honest. I'm also not a fan of the price of the 390. Again, this is what I would describe as, again, a Railroad Plus type model. The coaches have just blackened windows. They don't have any actual seating in them. They're very basic, basically. So $339.99 is kind of on the high end for the level of quality you get with this particular set. Again, I would have had the earlier Avanti version, the generic livery version, and traction tires, right? That's kind of the giveaway. The fact that it has traction tires for a model you're paying $339.99 for is an issue that I would have. So that's kind of it. Okay, so that kind of says enough about what the implementation of that particular model. So this probably wouldn't be one that I'd be going after. A kind of an interesting, quirky item for this year, which I think is interesting. This is the kitchen and buttery car and composite restaurant. Coaches the two different livery types here. These are actually interesting. So I haven't seen these before. It's the first time I've seen this kind of combination. They come in a twin pack for $139.99. Again, if you get those, if the quality level on these coaches is good and you're getting them at a discounted, probably not too bad value, So I wouldn't, and because they are unusual. This is an unusual twin pack, which could be a nice addition to existing rakes. So we would have rakes in both of these liveries. So I'll probably be keeping an eye on this one, and there are slight differences between the two as well, between the two different liveries in terms of the actual, looks like the actual tooling. So. Good one. I like this one, and it's not the price point isn't going to break the bank. Another couple before I wrap up. The Railroad Class 55 in this livery. I do like this livery type for the Class 55. Got 55002 here, coming in at $74.99 for the basic version, which is a very reachable price. And again, when it's discounted, that'll be under the 70 mark probably for people. So that's a good price to get. It's a bargain entry point type locomotive. Again, I guess some disappointment with the TXS version, not kind of giving you that kind of extra bit of a discount that you usually get with the sound versions, coming in at $129.99. Kind of would have hoped for a little bit more of a discount on that. Again, another £10 less perhaps, but I'm probably being nitpicking here. It's always good to get that extra bit of a discount if you get the sound pre-fitted. So. But an interesting model, and I'm sure certainly people will be picking it up for the $74.99, I'm sure, or the slightly discounted version of that. And one last one, which is kind of maybe a surprise to people, but I always like to look at the low-end sets because I think they're very important. It's very important to have good entry-level sets. Santa's Express with a rechargeable USB-C battery. I think this is good. I think this is a good idea. The minute I saw this as battery powered, I said, do they have a rechargeable battery built in? And yes, they do. Yeah, no, I take my hat off to Hornby, $39.99 starter set with the built-in battery like this. If it's got some decent battery life, no, great. I think it's fine. I have no problem. I'm a huge fan of starter sets, and having them with a battery is great, and having them rechargeable in this way is the way to go. So, yep, I'm good with this one. Mightn't be buying it for myself, but it's... I applaud having models like this, so no issue there, and a good one. There's lots of other coaches, lots of other freight wagons, etc. But I guess what I've gone through here are the ones that stood out for me. I went through all the range this morning, watched the video as well. I went through the website, and I guess these are the ones I'm kind of calling out. There's a few certainly there to be watched. And as I said, things like the Class 800 coming into the railroad range at a reasonable price, I would say. And it will be interesting to see the level of quality that delivers. And will it have traction tires? I guess that's an open question, right? I would hope it doesn't, but I kind of suspect at that price it possibly will. That's kind of my take on the range for this year. What are your thoughts? If any of these models kind of tickled your fancy or taken your interest, or what other models in the range? I haven't called out. I haven't really gone through a lot of the extra steam locomotives, and there are others in the range, obviously, because of what I typically model. Please let us know in the comments which one's the good, the bad, and the ugly, so to speak, of the 2025 range. I'd be interested to get your feedback on that. It could be some of the ones that I mentioned, or maybe there's other ones that I didn't refer to that do warrant some attention, as it were, and do deserve attention. So please let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. It's always interesting to do these range announcements, and I think there's a few things of interest there. There's nothing grossly spectacular in there, but there's some solid offerings, I think, and some of them towards the lower end as well. So that's good, and I do applaud Hornby for that. Sometimes we get totally consumed at the top end, and we really do need trains at the entry level that are going to attract young modelers into the hobby, and I think it's really important that they're catered for. So I will always be supportive of decent models at the low end that I see coming from vendors, and to be fair, there's a few of them on this particular list. Okay, we'll leave it there for today. Thanks for joining. We'll hopefully see you on the next one, and in the meantime, take care and happy modeling.